Hi, welcome to Chosen Few Expats. My name is Alonzo. Today we're going to cover 15 reasons why Panama's location is perfect. As we go through these, you'll see there's several reasons for this, ranging from Panama's location on the globe to its geography. So let's not waste any time and get right into it. So, number 15. The number 15 reason why Panama's location is perfect is that it has about 1,500 miles of beaches or shoreline. Again, due to its geography and its unique shape, it's an S shape, it's very thin isthmus, and it's bordered on both sides by two oceans. So you have a whole lot of coastline there. It's not all beach, but there's a lot of it that are beaches, and some very nice beaches. So that is one reason why Panama's location is perfect. The number 14 reason why Panama's location is perfect is the fertile soil. You have fertile, basically volcanic soil here that is great for growing the crops that they grow here, which are often non-GMO crops. The soil is made of volcanic ash and basaltic rock, which contains phosphorus, potassium, and calcium, and is great for growing crops. So you see a lot of fruit and vegetable stands all over Panama. Everywhere you get great prices on these fruits and vegetables, and they're very, very fresh, good vegetables. It's not like back in the States or Canada or Europe, when you walk in a store or walk into these fruit stands where your fruit looks all super shiny and you have it and it's going to last you for 2 weeks. No, this stuff's not going to last you for 2 weeks because they're not really putting much in the way of it on it in terms of preservatives and things like that. So that's one reason why Panama's location is perfect. The number 13 reason why Panama's location is perfect is that conditions are set for it to grow the world's best coffee. Panama's Geisha coffee is a world-renowned coffee, award-winning coffee, which has broken all kinds of records. Now you can get this stuff, the best of it sells for like over $2,000 a pound. You can get it for much less than that. Some versions of it you can get for much less than that, of course. You can get a one bag of it for about $32 or $35 from some of these coffee vendors. But you can also get a cup of coffee for about $9 with the geisha. You may see this priced around $20 in New York City for one cup of coffee. So if you're a coffee drinker, that's one reason why Panama's location is perfect. The number 12 reason why Panama's location is perfect is that the last major tornado hit in 1994 in Panama City. Tornadoes are very, very rare for the tropics in this area. That tornado unfortunately killed 7 people, but conditions are just not are not ripe here for the formation of tornadoes, so you will rarely, if ever, see any. So the number 11 reason why Panama's location is perfect is all of the flora and fauna here. You see wide variety of flowers and bird species. There's over 1,000 bird species here, 10,000 plant species, 1,200 orchids, 1,500 different types of trees. You see all different kinds of stuff here that will really blow your mind. If you're into bird watching, even if you're not, you're going to see some things that will really amaze you. So check out this clip from this woodpecker. The number 10 reason why Panama's location is perfect is that you can see 2 oceans at the same time. If you're standing on top of Vulcan Peru, which is Panama's highest point at 11,000 feet, and due to the geography of Panama, due to it being a very thin nation from one end to the other, the narrowest part is around 50 miles apart. You can, on the top of that mountain, look to one way on a clear day and see the Caribbean Sea, which is the Atlantic Ocean, and you can turn right around over your back shoulder and look at the Pacific Ocean on the opposite side. So that's something that's amazing. It's not something that you can do in many other countries on Earth. And so the number 9 reason why Panama's location is perfect is that you can swim in 2 oceans. You can swim in those 2 oceans in the same day. And it's basically for that reason. Due to the way that the country is constructed, you could literally wake up in, say, Cologne. You can go to the beach there. You can get in the car. You can drive an hour and 10 minutes back to the other side of the country and go jump in the Atlantic Ocean. So you can go from the Caribbean Sea or the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean and swim in 2 oceans in the same day. There's not too many places in the world where you can do that without having to get on a plane or without having to drive a lot farther than just an hour or hour and a half. The number 8 reason why Panama's location is perfect is the equal parts day and night. Now, I know we mentioned this in our 15 negatives of living in Panama video, that this may be a negative for some people because the sun rises very early here, but it is consistent in terms of when it rises and sets. It's going to always be close to an 11 and a half or 12-hour day here. So it's pretty much an equal split between day and night. The sun goes down pretty early, anywhere from, say, 6:45 to 7 o'clock, maybe a little earlier sometimes. But what that does for your body is that gets your body's internal clock in sync and with natural day and night cycles, and you can produce melatonin. Just so with the onset of darkness, your body begins to produce some melatonin to prepare itself for rest, and you can get some good rest. I myself have experienced this when we were making these exploratory trips down here, that every time we came down here, I always noted how, I always slept much better when we were here. And I've heard a lot of other people say that. So, I'm interested to know in the comments, for those of you who've been here, made a trip, or even live here now, let us know in the comments what y'all think about that one, because I always thought that I got much better sleep in Panama. And now that I've been doing this research, I can understand now that there's a reason there's a physiological reason for that. So that's the number 8 reason why Panama's location is perfect. The number 7 reason why Panama's location is perfect is that there are no active volcanoes in Panama, which is amazing because Panama does sit on the Ring of Fire. It is probably the only country that's on the Ring of Fire that doesn't have any active volcanoes. Even if you just look to the countries just to the north and to the south, to Costa Rica, Costa Rica has 15 volcanoes and 3 active, and Colombia has 10 volcanoes and 6 of those are active. As a matter of fact, one of those, Nevado del Ruiz, killed 23,000 people in 1985. They're sending out warnings in Colombia right now for the people to evacuate that area because due to the seismic activity there, they think that there could be an eruption pretty much any day now. So most of the people don't want to leave. It's a farming village, and they don't want to leave their animals and things like that because that's their livelihood. But sad situation there. But that's not something that you're going to have to deal with in Panama because there are no active volcanoes. And so the number 6 reason why Panama's location is perfect is that it has very rarely powerful earthquakes. Now, we did experience a fairly powerful earthquake here about a month ago, about a 6.6. It kind of shook things up pretty good, more so than I've ever experienced before. I think I was in about a 5.1 or 5.2 earthquake just back in Louisville in Kentucky. But this one was pretty sizable. But most of them will be, a lot lower than that. 3 point something, maybe 4 point something. Like, you barely even feel them at all, or somebody will tell you it was an earthquake and you're like, oh really? Like, I didn't even feel that. And so there's a reason for that, why Panama doesn't have a lot of strong earthquakes. Because you have a couple of different types of earthquakes: tectonic earthquakes and volcanic earthquakes. Volcanic earthquakes are obviously quite strong. You're not dealing with that in Panama because you don't have any active volcanoes. So then you have tectonic earthquakes, which basically there's 2 major types of that. There's several types, but one type is a subduction earthquake. That's basically where you have one tectonic plate that's up underneath another one, slipping up underneath another one. Another type of quake is a strike-slip quake, where the 2 plates, where they meet at the border, they just kind of slide against one another. Those are a lot less severe. Typically, those are the ones that Panama has. Also, Panama sits on its very own tectonic plate, the Panama Plate. So the Panama Plate floats in between 3 plates. It's bordered by the Caribbean Plate on the north and the Cocos Plate and the Nazca Plate to the south. So when you have subduction zones, those lend themselves to stronger earthquakes. Panama Plate itself is not subducted. Subducted, again, meaning that the border of one tectonic plate is moving or is acting underneath another one. Now, to the west of Panama, you do have the Cocos Plate, which is subducted underneath the Caribbean Plate. So oftentimes if there is a stronger quake, it will be somewhere, out west in Costa Rica or western Panama, and that's usually almost always going to be offshore, 80, 90, 100 miles offshore. And also with these earthquakes in Panama, the depth of the quake contributes to the strength of it. And most of the ones here were not often at a depth greater than 50 kilometers, which is pretty shallow. So for all of these reasons, Panama, does not really get strong earthquakes in general. I'm not saying it can't happen, the Most High's will, he can do, we don't know what can happen, but just based on its history and these geological facts are the reason why Panama does not tend to have very strong earthquakes. So the number 5 reason why Panama's location is perfect is that it is the only place in the world where you can see the sun rise over the Pacific Ocean and set over the Atlantic Ocean. So that's very unique. And again, it's due to its geological shape, the S shape that it has, shaped like an S laid on its side. You can see from high points in the country, the sun rise over the Pacific and set over the Atlantic. And like I said, you cannot do that anywhere else in the world. So that's one that just absolutely had to make this list for that reason alone. So the number 4 reason why Panama's location is perfect is that it is a major travel hub. Again, due to its location on the globe, 7 to 9 degrees above the equator, so it's pretty much in the center as far as north and south, in between North America and South America. And because it's a major city with 150 multinational companies, and you have the Panama Canal here, which is generating over $4 billion of revenue per year. So you have a lot of traffic coming through in terms of that. But in terms of your personal travel, you're in close proximity to a lot of other countries. You're bordered by Costa Rica to the north and Colombia to the south. We just took a trip to Colombia. You can get on a flight, get to Cartagena, get to Medellin, like under 50 minutes on a plane. Very inexpensive flights. You can get to all the places in the Caribbean very quickly. You can fly to DC on a 4-hour nonstop flight, or Chicago on about a 5-hour flight, or even all the way to Toronto on about a 5.5-hour flight. Out to the West Coast, about a 6 or 7 hour flight. Atlanta, about 3.5. Miami, 2.5. So it's very centrally located. Obviously, you can get to points south as well. Ecuador, Chile, Argentina, and places like that as well from Panama. So that is one huge advantage to living here that we're about to start taking even more advantage of. Number 3. The number 3 reason why Panama's location is perfect is that Panama has never been hit by a hurricane. The only close call was Tropical Storm Martha back in 1969. It was a hurricane offshore that was downgraded to a tropical storm by the time it hit. It's the only tropical cyclone to ever make landfall in Panama, but it did so as a tropical storm, not as a hurricane. And it hit up in the Veraguas province. Typically, hurricanes may hit 40, 50 miles into Costa Rica, if at all. That's about as close as they ever get. Conditions, again, due to Panama's geography and location, just basically don't lend itself to hurricanes. It's below the hurricane belt, being in a equatorial region. So that's another huge advantage and reason why Panama's location is perfect. So the number 2 reason why Panama's location is perfect is the weather. Now, I know we did note in our 15 negatives of living in Panama video that some people could see certain aspects of the weather being a negative. It can get humid here during the rainy season. It can be very humid. But during the dry season, basically you can expect for it if you live in our area near the beaches, which they call Arco Seco, which is dry arc. For the first 4 months of this year, I did not see a single drop of rain here. So that to me is a major advantage. If I can wake up and know that it's going to be warm, and it's not going to rain, or barely even rain, if at all, for 3 or 4 months out of the year, that's a huge advantage. And then even during the rainy season, when it does rain, that oftentimes is going to be maybe early afternoon for an hour or so, and then it'll clear up. Most oftentimes your mornings are clear and your late afternoons are clear. So your whole day isn't shot just because it rains, It is just going to be humid and it's going to be fairly hot. because the record low temperature in Panama City, in the history of Panama City, is 68 degrees. So, you know, it's very, very warm. So you don't have to worry about that. It can get cooler in the mountain areas, which works for a lot of people. They can go live in mountain areas like Boquete and Altos de Maria if they want a more spring-like climate. So the weather is reason number 2 why Panama's location is perfect. And the number 1 reason why Panama location is perfect that I touched on a few minutes ago is that it is a major shipping hub. Had to put this number 1 because of the Panama Canal and the over $4 billion of revenue that it generates annually, and that's increasing since they had the Panama Canal expansion about 5 years ago, maybe a little longer than that, 2016, 2017, which allows much larger cargo ships to come through the canal that they can charge a much higher toll. They charge a lot of these vessels up to $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 for one trip through that canal, which they will gladly pay instead of sailing 40-something days around South America. That's 40-something days, you know, you have to feed your crew, you got to pay them, you know, you got to burn fuel. That's also several weeks. Whatever product that you're carrying is not to market. If you take the trip through the canal, that you can get the products to the stores and everything a lot faster. And so the person or the company that's shipping those products can begin to make that money. So they would rather pay the toll, go through the canal, rather than go all the way around. Also, Panama has the second largest free trade zone in the world in Cologne, behind Hong Kong. That's a very, very little known fact. So you have a lot of goods coming through there, through the free trade zone. So also, it had the first intercontinental railroad was built in Panama. Now that's not that much of a surprise since it's only about 50 miles from one ocean to the other, but that even before the Panama Canal was really a huge thing and people were paying for it, people were still able to move goods by train from one coast to the other. So again, due to its geographic location being kind of in the center between North and South America, due to being bordered on an ocean to the north and an ocean to the south, and being very narrow, you can get to both sides of the country within an hour or 2 hours. That makes Panama location absolutely perfect in terms of it being a major international shipping hub. So that wraps up the video. We hope you all enjoyed the content. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and we'll see you all on the next one.